One important animation company that seems to be forgotten about often is the Bagdasarian Company. You may not have heard about this company that started from one simple cover of the novelty song Witch Doctor, but they created those famous singing chipmunks we all know and love. Started by Ross Bagdasarian, the Bagdasarian Company quickly turned into an empire once the world was introduced to three singing chipmunks and their owner David Seville. Ross Bagdasarian was an American singer and songwriter with the stage name David Seville. In 1958, he came up with the idea to speed up sections of the song Witch Doctor and make it seem like chipmunks were singing along. It quickly became a hit with audiences and they wanted more. Later that same year, he produced the Chipmunk song, popularly referred to as Christmas Don't Be Late. With this song, he added more character to the singing chipmunks he invented. He gave them names and personalities, showing who each one was compared to the others. Giving the characters a personality is something we learned is very valuable to an animator. Without having something for the audience to grasp onto and learn to love, it is hard to find success in your career. Alvin and the Chipmunks quickly rose to popularity in the U.S. Ross and his company continued to create new songs for the Chipmunks to sing, some even being covers of popular songs on the radio. Not too long after their premiere in 1958, the Chipmunks soon became something to watch on TV. Ross created, animated, and voiced these characters in a music video for their famous Christmas song. After the song, he continued to animate new stories for his singing chipmunks and eventually made enough to feature them in their own TV show called The Alvin Show. This TV show lasted for one season and it was different from most of the cartoons on TV at the time. The show was aired on CBS and was more of a musical comedy show than anything else because the stars were three singing chipmunks. The show included other characters the company created, like Clyde Crashcup, a crazy inventor who came up with things that already existed. Once the show ended, Ross focused on making more albums with the singing chipmunks until his death in 1972. Ross Bagdasarian and the Bagdasarian Company were lucky to enter into the animation world after popular animators like Max Fleischer and Walt Disney. Because they had been preceded by such inventive artists and animators, the Bagdasarian Company didn't have to work so hard for their animations to be successful. They already had the technology available to them that other animators before them had to create on their own. So all Ross and his men had to do was come up with likable characters and interesting situations to throw them into. Many of the episodes of The Alvin Show involved Dave fighting with Alvin because he wanted to do something different than what Dave wanted him to do, and he usually ended up getting his way. This was something that showed the unique personality of Alvin that would continue on for years to come. Shortly after the death of Ross Bagdasarian Sr., his son Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and his wife Janice Carmen took over the operation of the company and revamped Alvin and the Chipmunks with a new album called Chipmunk Punk. Ross Bagdasarian Jr. wanted to continue the legacy his father started, and he was very lucky that his wife was along for the ride. Together, they created a new TV special to reintroduce the Chipmunks to public attention. Their Christmas special, entitled A Chipmunk Christmas, told the story of Alvin, Simon, and Theodore learning about the magic of Christmas and how to be grateful for what you have and give back to others when they need it more. Once Ross and his team saw how successful the Christmas special was at bringing the Chipmunks back to the limelight, they decided it would be a good idea to create a new TV show for our favorite furry stars. The new show premiered in 1983 and ran until its last season in 1990. The show was popular because each episode, the Chipmunks found some new trouble to get into, whether it be at their elementary school that they attended with real kids, or with Dave at home or on stage. And it could be found on TV every Saturday morning along with the line of other popular children's cartoons. The show continued the trend started by The Alvin Show in the 60s of being a musical comedy show. Throughout its time, the show gave the audience new music by the Chipmunks and heartwarming resolutions to Alvin's continued selfishness. There was also a range of new characters introduced throughout the years. Some of the notable ones are Jeanette, Brittany, and Eleanor, also known as the Chipettes. These female counterparts for the Chipmunks created a new dynamic for the show. The girls were featured in their own episodes and specials, and often the storyline of an episode would involve some feud between stubborn Alvin and hot-headed Brittany. The show has a personal touch because all the Chipmunks were voiced by Bagdasarian Jr. and his wife Janice Carmen. In 1987, the company tried something new. They created the first motion picture about Alvin and the Chipmunks called The Chipmunk Adventure. The movie stars the Chipmunks and the Chipettes and tells the story of them traveling the world in hot air balloons, all while singing us new songs throughout the movie. For the last season of the show Alvin and the Chipmunks, they did something different. The last season is called The Chipmunks Go to the Movies, and in this season, the characters take on the roles of our favorite movie stars and play in some retellings of classic movies. Of course, the short time span didn't allow for the Chipmunks to be completely accurate in their retelling, but it was still entertaining to watch, and they always found a way to throw in a few songs. Some of the movies the show parodies are Batman, Dick Tracy, RoboCop, and Back to the Future. The season was short, and you could tell the audience was losing interest in these chipmunks and their stories. Even though I wasn't born yet while these episodes aired, they were still some of my favorite cartoons to watch. I remember going to Blockbuster every weekend and begging my mom to let me rent the same DVD of this season or of the movie The Chipmunk Adventure. If they didn't have what I wanted at Blockbuster, I knew I could always find some episodes on YouTube. After the show died out, there were very few new releases from Alvin and the Chipmunks. Most of what was released in the 90s was straight to VHS movies and specials, which included Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein in 1999 and Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman in 2000. Then there was a break in animation because the popularity of the Chipmunks died down until the release of the live-action movie Alvin and the Chipmunks in 2007, followed by The Squeakquel in 2009, Chipwrecked in 2011, and finally The Road Chip in 2015. Once those movies lost their popularity, the Bagdasarian Company went back to the animation world. They created a new, more modern show for the Chipmunks called Alvin and the Chipmunks, which has been airing on Nickelodeon since 2015. I think that it's important to learn about smaller animation companies because a lot of us, when we think about famous animation, have only Disney come to mind. I loved watching the Alvin and the Chipmunks cartoons as a kid and felt that they were something that should be shared. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new.